Good evening, Sandra Fordyce Forham speaking, presenting on Boonwurrung country. I'd like to acknowledge our traditional owners of the land on which I present today. So I'm presenting here guidelines for the McCormick's Home Economics Institute of Australia Flavour Forecast 2024 Challenge, and providing teachers with the opportunity to have a bit of background information to ensure success for their students' submission for the challenge. So just an overview of what I'm presenting today and a summary of this presentation video. The flavour trends for 2024 are listed there: sour power, thoughtfully borrowed, indulgent, redefined. And once McCormick's uploads their Australia 2024 version, you can see the American version, which I have itemized on the slide. So my overview will be the preparation, planning for the development of the project, curriculum structure and timeline, and some sample timelines, and how you can adapt for your existing curriculum, and finally actioning the project so that we can guarantee the success for ourselves and our students. So first of all, I've given you the 2024 flavour forecast. Now this is the US version, but it still has the same flavour trends as the Australian version. So you can see that in this screen capture there are hot links to the background information of what the flavour trends are going to be. Now it's all about the planning. So when you envisage this presentation, I'd like you to think about your students and also to have a think about their attributes, their skill sets, their cultural background, and how that can complement the project. And also think about the variations. You know your students best. Think about if they are working in groups of 3, I think works best. And then consider the groupings to ensure that you have perhaps the most guaranteed type of success. One's creative, one's great at digital technologies and able to write up and create a very polished presentation. Others might be proficient in organisation and culinary skills. So here's an example of a timeline, and step 1 is actually getting students engaged about the project and yourselves too. So think about a mood board. So once you've got your own head around the flavour trends for 2024 as a teacher, start thinking about how you can entice and whet the appetite of your students. So think about Canva. This is particularly good for visual students and also digital technology advanced students as well. Creating a mood board, and you can even create a digital version so that you can do a think, pair and share so that students can pool their ideas. Now at this stage the groups might be loose and students can actually gravitate towards maybe other students in the group or in the class that they might consider working with. So this is really just an opportunity to have a bit of a sandpit play, get to know the flavour, get confident at what the flavour trends might be, having a look at some recipe research, exploring something like SBS food, and I have some examples there about how to write and a recipe later on in the slideshow. So it's your, I guess, function as a teacher to be a facilitator of this project and work as a guide to your students. So that means forecasting, anticipating to ensure that they have a successful experience. They do need to have your guidance to help them structure the task so that their outcome is successful. Okay, now a little bit about the structure. Include the project when you take on the challenge. Allow about 3 to 5 weeks. I'd say 5 weeks is about perfect, and I'll show you some sample timelines. Work with well, I've got here the Australian curriculum, but you might be working with the Victorian or New South Welsh curriculum or South Australian curriculum, but it's designed for Year 9 and 10 students. So include it as your existing assessment to validate the students' work. And ensure you can just read through that. Proposed recipe ingredients are accessible to you. So at each step, be sure to, at every step of the way, ensure that you have access to the ingredients, that you have the budgetary and time requirements to guarantee the success of the project. So here's an example of, and this is actually based on my own former school students, and there's the structure of our Year 9 and 10 food program. Our timeline, I suggest a backward design, say working backwards from the deadline 5 weeks and constructing a timeline, and in the next slide that I'll show you will be an example of a sample timeline, and this depends on the proficiency of your students and in fact how much time you can actually allow and schedule in to the program. It might mean that students might be prepared to do some outside of class research to help expedite the overview of and implementation of the project. May I also emphasize the importance of actually keep on track with the criteria. So there are budgetary limitations. There's also time limit, the amount of time people can spend on preparing and cooking the recipe. So, and then it serves two, and that only one food item in the discretionary area of the Australian Guide to Healthy Eating pyramid can actually be used. But check the criteria because it may vary slightly from year to year. So here's an example of a timeline, and I won't go through that, but it just you can read through the PowerPoint at your leisure, and this is only a sample and how it might work for you and your students. Finally, pointers. Recipes must be original, so trial and test. The judges actually go back and have a look at the recipes to ensure that there is originality and there's no copying verbatim from a recipe. So certainly they can be inspired. There are some examples and samples of recipe ideas and food ideas in the McCormick and shortly the Home Economics Institute of Australia as well. So the main thing is keep on track of your timeline to ensure that tasks are scheduled and completed in a timely manner. So that's about all from me. You're very welcome to email me, and I know that some of my screen capture may have blocked off some of the slides, so you can have a look at the accompanying PowerPoint. So good evening, all the very best, and I encourage you to work with your students and have a step-by-step methodical approach and some great ideas, and we look forward to receiving the entries and submission from students right across Australia. Thank you and good night.